Well, what's happening YouTube? This is John, nerding out with cards, and the video that I'm coming at you with today is part one of two for my Musial collection. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a few cards right here, but then we're going to get a little bit more in depth, right? So with Stan the Man, especially you collect it in a vacuum, not keeping up with card values and things like that. It's within St. Louis, it's, Stan is the man, right? So you're thinking to yourself, like, his cards are like probably going to be really expensive. And I never realistically entertained collecting his cards. And of course, as watching a lot of the content creators here on the YouTube, and Stan is underrated, undervalued. Those are common discussions that you hear within the videos. Then watching videos of like Don Field of Dreams, big time Musial collector, Force Off Corners. He's showing some Musial pickups. Theo Clemente collector was showing a bunch of his Musial cards, and I felt kind of embarrassed, right? It's like, man, I'm this big time Cardinals fan, and I don't have really many Stan cards, but it's like, well, I need to get a plain Days Musial. So I picked up the 3,000 hit card, and then as I watching more and more, it's like I became enamored with the 52 Bowman card. And then I was watching Adam Splendid Sports. He does that where he collects 4 cards of a player. I was like, well, that's actually a really cool idea. That kind of keeps you focused, it kind of keeps you limited so you don't go crazy. And so with that, it's like, well, I gotta get his rookie. And what am I gonna do to round out the 4? And it's like, well, the iconic Topps card. And it's like, okay, I'm good. And then what I ended up doing though was I went to a cards show, and I've shown this before, and I bought the 62 card from Greg's dad, and it's just like, okay, well, now I've gone beyond that 4, and it just kind of keeps going and going. But one of the things is, I read this book, and I'm sure a lot of you all are familiar with this book, the Bubblegum Card Wars, by Dean Hanley. He runs that online retailing store, Dean's Cards. And so he gets into the 52 to 55 Topps versus Bowman war, and when especially in reading this book, it's like the poster child, the player that comes to mind the most for me is Stan, right? There's he wasn't in any of the early Topps sets. He had some Bowman cards, and things like that. So it's like, all right, well, now I've got the big 4 for me, or my favorite 4 from what I've seen. And well, now that I got that 5th one, I'm reading that book, I'm going on the eBay and I'm watching Greg's videos about values and all of these things. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna get his Bowman and Topps cards, right? So like, got the Bowmans right here, got his Topps right here. These are flagship cards, so it doesn't like include the stamps or anything. And I'm missing the Leaf card. I mentioned that probably a couple times now. Will I get it in the future? Don't know, but right now I'm very happy with the flagship run of Musial between Bowman and Topps. And so I wanted to deep dive into this a little bit more. Recently, Pastor Craig's vintage cards showed off his sweet Musial collection, so show mine. And like I said, I'm gonna do the Bowman cards first, and then in a subsequent video, what I'll do is I'll show off the Topps cards. But in a first for me is I'm gonna turn the camera around, so in that way we're really focusing on the cards. A lot of you might be thinking, oh, well, we've seen all these cards before, they're flagship. It's just the super common Bowman, the super common Topps. It's like, okay, well, I want to show off mine, and you know, I hope you all enjoy it. See you on the flip side. Alrighty, so without further ado, we're going to look at Musial's Bowman run. You know, it's only a handful of cards, so it'll be pretty quick. But we got his rookie card in 48. You've seen me show this before, but now getting a closer look at my copy. I absolutely love it. And in case you hadn't seen any of my previous videos, but this image right here, because of the ball cap. I estimate this picture was taken in 42 during Musial's rookie season, even though this card was released in 48. Really good stuff. I like the black and white images of the 48 Bowmans. I know some people prefer the color, but I like it. And you've heard me say too that, the back of the card is clean. With my Musial cards, I do like having clean backs, because I like to be able to, read what Bowman had to say about Musial. And I think Bowman did a pretty good job of describing players, so they focus on the description over line-by-line statistics. So, go ahead and read this one off. Started his baseball career as a pitcher. Shoulder injury cut that short, but he developed into an outstanding fielder. His stance at bat is something to see, winding up like a windmill. He has made season averages of 347 and 357. In 1943, he won the Most Valuable Player Award, and again won the coveted award in 1946 with a batting average of 365, 3 times an All-Star. I just think that's really cool, because that's how it was at that time while these cards were coming out, while he was playing, so without the benefit of, the career history. Really cool card. One of my prized cards in my collection. So the next, and I'm going to take it out of the holder right here, but we got the 49 Bowman. This is a year that Bowman put some color on their cards, probably in response to the Leaf set that came out. But yeah, you got Musial at the bat, and that windmill batting stance that the 48 card was referring to. And yeah, it's nice that there's color on these cards. I'm not sure how well it was really kind of executed, but at the same time, this is 1949, so really cool. But yeah, this is my copy of the 49 Musial Bowman. And once again, we got a clean back to where I can see and read everything. These ads, kind of cool. But one of the greatest players in baseball, only National Leaguer to win Most Valuable Player Award 3 times, 43, 46, and 47. Started baseball as a pitcher, but shoulder injury stopped that. His stance at bat is something to see, winding up like a windmill. He has made season averages of 347 and 357. Last season, for the 3rd time in his major league career, he led NL in batting with 376 average and in 6 other departments. 4 times an All-Star. I just think it's really cool, and these averages and these things that they're talking about, it's not all of them came during the war. This is after the war, so it's really cool. Next we got probably my favorite image of Musial on a Bowman card, or any baseball card for that matter of his. You got the 52. Again, you got that stance. I really like these artistic renditions that they used to do. I just think it's cool. You got the ballpark in the background. It's just awesome. I know a lot of people feel the same way, and some that prefer other Musial cards, but that's okay. So then you got the back here again. It's clean back. I can read everything. Led the National League batters for the 5th time in 1951 His averages was 355. Tied for the lead in scoring most runs, 124. Hit for most total bases, 355. Tied for most triples, 12. Extended own National League record by scoring 100 or more runs for the 8th straight year. It is a shame, we didn't get a Musial card in 50 or 51 Bowman. So, it wasn't just the whole Topps thing that prevented us from having more Musial cards, but there's gaps for the Bowman years, as we're about to see with the next one. All right, so we got the 53 Bowman. You've seen this before, a newer addition to my collection. A lot of people love this image, love this set. Tying back into, the bubblegum card war book. Bowman had put so much money and effort into this set, and it really kind of, they went on a spiral after that, it seemed. But yeah, so again, with the back, they had changed their formatting here, put line item statistics, and I'm sure you've seen cards where people wrote in what the this year stats ended up being. I think those were actually kind of cool, because that's how the card was designed. That's what people did. I would have been stoked if this copy of the Musial card had somebody write that in, but they didn't. So, but anyway, the mere mention of Stan the Man suffices for most baseball fans because he's the greatest. In St. Louis, we know that. For the 3rd straight year, the 6th time in his career, Stan was the National League batting champion with an average of 336. He tied for leadership in runs scored with 105, making 9 consecutive seasons he has scored 100 or more runs. He had the most base hits with 194. You read the back scene, all the tremendous things that Musial had done, and that was only up to this point. You remember he ended up playing another decade, and his Topps run will be in a future video where we can spend more time talking about those. But but these are the things as to why people say, oh, he's underrated and all that. Even if you try to mitigate his contributions by, during the war, pre-integration and all these things, but he was doing it after those, right? And it's pretty wild to think that he's not thought of more, or it kind of does confuse the people like myself who collect these cards as to why they're not worth more. But I am fortunate that they are not worth more and they're attainable. But like I said, all those great things. And so I wanted to show off one other card. This is a gift I had received a few years ago from a guy I was stationed with in Bahrain. And it's this Stan Musial Leaf sticker autograph card. And sticker autograph is how they were pack pulled. I know if you see a lot of Musial items, they got this sticker, slapped on to really anything. I mean, he was signing, and you kind of wonder if he was being taken advantage of in a sense, because he was signed until probably his death. But no, this is how it's pack pulled, and there was a whole set of these, and I might pursue that one day. But this one was a gift, really cool gift, and what I really like about it is it commemorates his inclusion into the All-Century team. However, going back to him being underrated and all these things, when the All-Century team was first identified, Musial was actually left off. And I forget how the All-Century team was selected. There might have been a fan vote, this, that, whatever, but Musial was omitted. And luckily, somebody realized that glaring error and corrected the wrong, and had Musial included. Well, what's really cool about the back of this card is, think about this, right? One of the ways that I try to think of a player's greatness is, their stats at retirement. You know, it was how many records do they hold at the time of their retirement, right? Because the game keeps going on. And then, of course, you know, how they compared amongst their peers in their era. But check this out. In 1999, Musial was chosen as one of 30 players for the Major League Baseball All-Century team. At the time of his retirement, Musial held 17 MLB records, 29 National League records, and 9 All-Star records. I mean, that is pretty wild to think about. You know, you think of other players like Babe Ruth or Hank Aaron or Nolan Ryan as being just players that have so many records. Well, Musial is on that same level, you know what I mean? So that's why I wanted to show this card, because it kind of ties into all the stuff that, you know, was mentioned on the Bowman cards as you know, the years went on. You know, they kind of tacked up with more batting titles, more MVPs, more records with, you know, 100 runs scored. But, you know, so I wanted to take a closer look at my Bowman run of Musial cards, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. Y'all have a good one.